Well, hey, my name is Junior, and I am glad and grateful to be part of Recovery Church Movement. And it's just such a blessing because 8 years ago, I found myself wanting to take my own life. See, I was successful in business. I did everything I thought would bring me joy and all of the things that the world tells me are going to be awesome. And here's the thing, when I got there, I found out that they were all empty. Everything that I thought I wanted, the cars, the house, the stuff, the parties, like when you finally get there, you realize it's empty. And I realized at that point in my life, I'm like, you know what? There's no more, it's nothing to look forward to. Like, why am I here? And I woke up every day and I would drink and get drunk and deal with my problems and other people's problems, and I would get high and then I would go to sleep, and then I would wake up the next day and I would drink and I would, deal with my problems, other people's problems, get high, go to sleep, and I was just miserable. Every day I woke up feeling awful. And I remember one day I just said, God, just finish the job. I never had a relationship with God, but I believe there was a higher power out there somewhere. And I was just like, finish the job, Lord. Like, I'm tired of doing this. Like, I've tried to quit drinking. I've tried to quit using drugs. I'm letting everybody around me down. Like, this thing has control of me. I no longer have control of it. Like, I remember when I first started drinking or using, like, I had control of it. Like, I did it for fun. Whenever I wanted to have fun, I would do it. But then over time, what I ran to for comfort that made me happy became my prison. And I could no longer get away from it. So 29 years old, I said, Lord, just end my life. And I remember that night just literally feeling like I was about to die because I had done too much. I thought about the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So I said, you know what, tomorrow I'm just going to Google I have a problem with alcohol. And I did. And after I did that, this phone number came up. I called the guy. And long story short, I find myself in a treatment center. And after being there for 2 weeks, you're actually allowed to go to church. So one guy comes up to me. He's like, hey, man, would you like to come to church with us? And I'm like, nah, God doesn't want anything to do with me. He's like, come on, man, come to church, man. It'll be fun. I'm like, dude, don't ask me again. I'm not going to go. And then he turns around and he's like, well, there's real coffee at church. And for those who don't know, there is no real coffee in treatment. All there is decaf. So I turn around and I'm like, well, wait a minute, real coffee? I said, well, look, I'll go this one time just for the coffee. And then, it'll be good. And I remember going there for the coffee that day, and I got my cup of coffee. But I remember getting there, and we got off this van, and it was like just a bunch of people that were in recovery, and a lot of us smoke cigarettes. Like, I smoke cigarettes, and a lot of them have tattoos, and I was just like, we just don't look good as a unit. Like, I was very insecure. I felt like people were judging us and looking at us, and maybe they were, but maybe they weren't. I'm very good at projecting my insecurities onto other people. So the whole time I'm there, I'm feeling just all this insecurity, like I'm being judged. And I remember being in the church that day, and they pass the offering plate, and in treatment, they don't give you cash because, they think you're probably going to buy drugs, right? So we didn't have cash, and I felt so ashamed that I couldn't put money in the offering plate. And because of that, like, this voice in my head just kept telling me how worthless I was. I couldn't even pay attention to the message. And I remember that day, I was yelling out to this God, and I was like, would you just help me get a moment of clarity? And I remember getting that moment of clarity, and I heard the story of this prodigal son. And man, I just felt like God was saying, hey, I'm not your accuser, I'm your defender. Like, I love you, son. I relentlessly pursue you and come after you. And I remember that day, things in my life started to change. So when I left treatment, I started going to church. And I remember being at church and still being in AA because I lived in a recovery house or halfway house. And you had to go to a meeting every single day. And I remember being at the meetings, and I'm like, I kind of like church more than I like these meetings. And I realized I needed both. But I had to go to both, and it started being a little bit overwhelming. And then I found out about Recovery Church, and Recovery Church was absolutely amazing. I got there, and they were like, well, wait a minute. We have Jesus and recovery together. Now, here's the thing. In the rooms, a lot of times, you could say any word you want, cuss word, whatever it is, right? But if you say the name of Jesus, wow, people will turn against you, right? So what ended up happening is I'm like, okay, well, I can't talk freely about Jesus here, but I want to talk about Jesus and recovery. So I went to Recovery Church, and they had such a great blend. I'm like, man, come on, this is like peanut butter and jelly. It is the best mix ever. I absolutely loved it. And here's the thing I love about RC. Recovery Church is actually a church that pushes people into a Sunday morning church. So it's not a church that's like, hey, come to us on Sundays. No, we meet during the week. Why? Because there might be some addicts that feel the way that I did, insecure to walk into a Sunday morning church. So this is a great way to just kind of integrate in, and then we'll push you to a Sunday morning church, but we'll also push you into AA meetings. So that's what I love about Recovery Church so much, is it was a great blend of both Jesus and AA. And I got to say, man, I've been part of Recovery Church now for over 5 years, and I absolutely love it. My life has been transformed. Many lives have been transformed. And, man, I'm excited to see what God is going to continue to do in and through Recovery Church. It changed my life. I'm excited to see what it does in the future.